what a way to start a Sunday. It's like, holy cow, this really changed the landscape of the season and made the NBA front and center here with the big topic of discussion.
No doubt about it. And it obviously also led to a domino effect because, as we know, the NBA is a monkey see, monkey do business. Who's going to be the first to step up on the dance floor? And boy, did we get quite a performance as far as moves being made with Luka being shipped out of Dallas. Nobody saw it coming. I actually had a hard time falling asleep on Saturday night because Twitter was just too entertaining. I mean, the hot takes and initial reactions from not only players or coaches or media members. I mean, I just couldn't get enough of the action, and that obviously trickled into today as well. So it's been a fun 24 hours, to say the least, for NBA fans around the world. But let's go ahead and get into the details here real quick, break it all down. The Lakers, they got, of course, Luka. They also got Maxi Kleber and Markieff Morris. The Mavericks got Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and the Lakers' 2029 first-round pick. And then the Jazz also played a factor in this trade as well, helping it go down with some assistance. And they got Jalen Hood-Schifino, the former first-round pick of the Los Angeles Lakers. They got a Clippers 2025 second-round pick and the Mavericks 2025 second-round pick. So guess we'll just start here. Why do you think this trade went down?
Honestly, when I first saw it, and then I heard some of the details and some of the inner workings, whatever, I honestly believe the Mavericks did not see themselves as a title contender the way they saw themselves last year, like it. And Luka was looking at a supermax contract this offseason. I don't think they wanted to pay him for a guy who at best, his track record suggests you're going to get nothing more than 60 to 65 games out of him. And I don't think they want to pay that kind of money to a player, as young as he is, who can't be, who's a guarantee to miss 20 to 25 games every season.
Yeah, I think the coincidence, the funny irony and coincidence in this trade is the fact that in just one season, we had both teams in the Minnesota Timberwolves and Dallas Mavericks making these big moves after a very successful stretch run in the Western Conference playoffs last year. I mean, this one took it to a whole different level. I mean, no disrespect to Karl Anthony Towns, but Luka Doncic is a top 5 player in the NBA. For me, I'm in agreement with you. I think one of the bigger things that at first I had no idea why this happened. It still didn't really make sense to me. I really kind of had to sleep on it. Still woke up not understanding really everything. But I think it really boils down to new ownership, right? I mean, Mark Cuban is not the primary controlling owner anymore, making decisions. I personally think this trade never happens if Mark Cuban is still in charge of the Dallas Mavericks. I think there's no way he would do this. But new ownership didn't want to pay Luka that money in a max extension. Of course, there could possibly be some weight and conditioning concerns as well with Luka. Maybe there's things going on behind the scenes that they have intel on that no other teams do. I mean, that certainly is, runs a risk there for the Los Angeles Lakers or other teams. Maybe there's some sideshows that are very concerning with Luka moving forward with his future with the Mavericks there. And I also want to just touch on the fact that if it is a weight and conditioning concern for the Dallas Mavericks, I mean, how shocking is it that Luka was traded for that concern before Zion Williamson in New Orleans?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. It's a go figure sort of thing. I had a question. Once I read the details or whatever, I kind of, like I said, I think they traded. They didn't want to pay a super max. Didn't want to be the team that didn't pay him and then have that reputation as somebody who's not going to step up and put a contender out there or whatever you want to say. And then I just, they wanted to get something back for him. My question is, you want to say, couldn't they have gotten more? Well, they didn't want, obviously this was so under the table. We didn't hear a rumor about it. We didn't know anything about it.
Nothing.
I think they didn't want to be that, I heard, couldn't they have gotten, the Knicks got sent away 5 first round picks for Mikal Bridges and all stuff like that. And I think, well, yeah, they could have shopped him around a little bit better but then the rumor starts to fly, and then it becomes real chaos, and then you get a lot of discontent with Maverick fans who absolutely love Luka. I think they try to do this as under the table as possible. There is a connection with Nico Harrison, the GM of the Mavericks, and Rob Pelinka that allowed this to be facilitated very quickly. And they get back an All NBA player. I mean, this is a huge, huge trade. Impactful. We'll wait and see. It's not a change the game like Will Chamberlain when he got traded. It's not in that level, but it's, according to the Live Sports Bureau, the first time two reigning All NBA players get traded for each other in midseason. I mean, it's historic, and it arguably could be the most shocking trade we've ever seen just for the surprise element.
Yeah, and you brought up the Mavericks general manager, Nico Harrison. One thing I want to touch upon with him is this guy is not afraid to take big risks. I mean, let's look back at what he did with Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving was a disaster in Brooklyn. A lot of people, including myself, did not like the trade of acquiring him, teaming him up with Luka in Dallas in the first place. I know that you were actually one of the big fans of that, and that turned out to look pretty good with that pairing. Then he went out and also was the guy that signed Klay Thompson after a very disappointing end to his career with the Golden State Warriors. Took a big swing there, paying Klay for, I believe it was 3 years on that contract, and getting him. And now he's just adding to his resume with the biggest one yet, trading a cornerstone franchise piece in Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis, who, of course, obviously fits a immediate need for this team moving forward. Before we move on here, though, with the Mavericks, obviously they did not shop Luka around. Do you think they were really concerned about word getting out around like Luka and his camp, and the fact that there was the potential that Luka in his camp would have taken control of maybe the destination? Because I've seen that kind of swirling around as a major question as well. And my response to that would be, wouldn't the Lakers still be at a top of that list? I don't foresee a situation where Luka would have been like, I don't want to go play for the Lakers.
I don't think the Lakers would have been a lesser of desirable destinations for Luka. I do think they would have probably fielded offers that would have bettered their future. Clearly, this is a situation where the Mavericks are let's see what we can get for this year and next year with this lineup, because they got real old real fast with this trade.
Yeah,
Anthony Davis is just 31. He turns 32 at the end of the month, and it's but he's got the body. He's about 5 years ahead with his body. As far as his injury issues. So this lineup is what it is for the next, say, 2 years. And so that's the future. Now, then afterwards, what happened? Maybe you rebuild, you tear it all down and move it back up. I think they could have gotten a better deal. It still may have been Luka's preference to go to LA, but I mean, who the heck knows? I got to imagine they could have gotten better deals from anybody. Geez, call up the Knicks. I'm sure the Knicks have plenty of players that they would gladly. I know they have the Villanova connection, but they would gladly send somebody there in order to put Luka in New York. I'm sure Pat Riley would have loved an idea to try and get Luka down there. So there's better options for the Mavericks, I believe. But in order to keep this quiet, and get something in return, they didn't exactly get fleeced. They just didn't get as good a deal as they could have by dealing with the Lakers only.
Yeah, and there was a report that came out that the Mavericks did place one phone call with another team before making this deal. And I have no intel on this, World B, but I can almost assure you that it was the Milwaukee Bucks checking in on Giannis's availability. If there was any potential of maybe making a swap Luka to Milwaukee for Giannis. I mean, given the connection Giannis has with Jason Kidd, even assistant coach Sean Sweeney, totally think that was definitely the team that they called, and that was quickly squashed. I mean, even if that made sense talent-wise, right? It doesn't with Dame in town, but even if it made sense for Milwaukee, I don't foresee Luka wanting to stay in Milwaukee long-term as a destination. It doesn't seem like a fit. But I found that interesting as well. They made one call, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, that was definitely the Milwaukee Bucks, John Horst, general manager, and I hope he just completely hung up without even saying no on that trade
Well,
call.
after a good laugh or something.
Yeah.
But no, I would completely agree with that. I think that's a now the players make it a worthwhile trade because that's the kind of player you get back for a Luka and
Yeah.
in Anthony Davis. You get an All NBA player who's having a great year, by the way. He was
Sure.
24 and 11, so it's not like and over 2 blocks. So it's not like he's having a bad season by any stretch. And now he, gets to play the 4, which we heard him complaining about. Not complaining, but mention how he preferred the 4. Well, now he's there.
Yeah, got his wish.
So, yeah, now he got his wish, and now he's playing. This, by the way, this also gives the Mavericks don't necessarily have to be done dealing because now they have a potential. Let's see what we can get for Daniel Gafford. Let's see what there are teams that need centers. Derek Lively is looking like he is a long-term player in Dallas at that position. It worked well, the two of them together. But now if you want to give Lively more minutes, work him alongside AD. Now Anthony Gafford, suddenly is a trade piece for them. And there are teams out there, including LA, that could use a center.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Gafford's time to go in Dallas this year, but maybe this offseason that could be a conversation because Lively's out for the next 2 to 3 months with his own injury.
True.
So
I
they can't afford to lose Gafford right now.
That's
and
true.
I think he actually complements AD quite well as far as what he brings to the table, physicality as a 5, both offensively and defensively for this team. So looking at the Lakers here, let's get to the impact on the Lakers. I think number one, you mentioned AD. He's playing top brand basketball right now. He has for the last year and a half for the Lakers. If you ask me, I thought they cashed in at the right time. This is peak value for AD. He hasn't been hurt in quite a while. Dallas Maverick fans, knock on wood as I say that, because obviously the history prior to a year and a half ago, things weren't looking too nice for AD. He was in and out of the lineup quite frequently. So they're going to try to have to keep him healthy in Dallas. But as far as the Lakers are concerned, first thing I want to touch on, World B, is the fact that a friend of the show, Dave McManahan, who, of course, knows the Lakers and LeBron as best as anyone, stated LeBron found out at dinner after the Lakers victory in New York against your Knicks on Saturday night. And just the relationship between, Rich Paul, Clutch Sports, he represents both LeBron and AD. Do you believe that? Do you think LeBron was not in the conversations at all, or at least tipped off that this might happen?
It sounds implausible, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That your number one your number one guy would not be informed of such a massive deal. They say he wasn't. You want to take him at their word, but it just doesn't seem logical that you wouldn't include him, let him know. But it's a perfect situation, I think, for the Lakers.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I would go not just the Lakers number one, but the most powerful player in all of basketball. I mean, let's not forget he just got his son drafted in the NBA draft as well. Yeah. I mean, he is the most prominent, most powerful, active player in the NBA today, bar none. As far as the Lakers are concerned, what I really like about this trade is, I mean, we had been talking all year long, looking at the Warriors and the Lakers, teams that have past championships and dominated the Western Conference. Instead of having a hard reset moving forward now, the Lakers land their young superstar in Luka and now have him to build around for the future. So, I mean, hope, optimism for Lakers fans just instantaneously increased dramatically with Luka on board now. And I guess the question remains, do you think LeBron's in it for the long run with the Lakers? Maybe, I know he might only have like a year left, or do you think he's going to want to now force his way out of LA to go maybe to Golden State, or I wouldn't even rule out Phoenix somehow? Like, do you think LeBron's going to want to stick in town with Luka? If maybe they get off to a rocky start trying to share the basketball, or what's your thoughts on that?
I think he wants to stay in LA. This improves their title chances immensely from where they were before the trade, in my opinion. I
Mhm.
don't think there's any question. This is a perfect situation for. I think it's a perfect situation for LeBron. I think it's a perfect situation for the Lakers. And you get a seamless, almost seamless transition from the end of the LeBron era into Luka's era,
Yep.
and they get to do it for the next 10 years essentially if they choose. And Luka and the Lakers choose. I mean, that's a relationship you could see into 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years down the road. I think this improves their title chances big time. It doesn't put them ahead of a team like the Thunder. I think the Thunder separate themselves from the West. But ask yourself honestly, the way the West has been going, it's been up and down lately with some of these teams. You get into a playoffs and assuming Luka is healthy with the lineup they have now, how many teams in the West are you really taking over a LeBron and Luka team in the Lakers outside of OKC? That's I can't think of any at the moment that I'm really thinking is all right. I'm going to take them.
Yeah. And we look at history. I mean, just last year, Luka propelled his team to an NBA Finals appearance. So
And
he's already
yeah,
proven it.
and you're looking at the complaint when Kyrie came to Dallas was, well, now you have two ball dominant players, two players who need the ball in their hands to succeed. It's never going to work. And look, it worked. They got to the finals. Now you hear that kind of the same way now. It's two great players who are having, LeBron's having another great season, and Luka was having a great season before he got hurt. And now you're looking at, well, here's two more ball dominant players. How is this going to work? It works. You have
Yep.
two great players. It works. It worked with Dallas. It worked with the Knicks 40 some odd years ago with Earl Monroe and Walt Frazier. How are two ball dominant players like that going to work? It works. You have
Yep.
great players who want to win. It works. Who's not going to want to play with? If you're LeBron, who would you rather have right now to play with other than one of the best young players in the league in Luka? And if you're Luka and you have to leave a place you love like Dallas, I get to play with the legend as LeBron James,
Yep.
and I'm in a better spot to win a championship, I think. No, I think it's a great situation for the Lakers, who I don't give a lot of credit to from their front office moves, but I think this is a home run.
Yeah, this was a no-brainer. One of those calls where they said the report came out that they took a couple hours to, ponder the phone call they just had with the Dallas Mavericks. I would have hit accept right away on that before. It's almost like a fantasy trade where you don't want it to sit in your email inbox too long before they can just decline the trade and cancel it. You just got to hit accept on that. And another storyline that I really appreciate about this is that the plot just thickens with the relationships JJ Redick has with guys. Of course, it started with co-hosting a podcast with LeBron James and Luka Doncic. Maybe some people have forgotten was his teammate in Dallas for a year. So they do have a relationship. Obviously, Redick is a younger coach. He's now got a younger player to help build and grow as they develop their organization there moving forward into the future. And I think for the long-term look here with Luka in a purple and gold uniform, it puts them in a better position to contend now and for years to come. I look at Luka a lot of the same ways I looked at James Harden in the 2010s with the Houston Rockets. I mean, they've now got their primary scorer, ball handler, and playmaker. And now for the years post LeBron, all you need to do is find the supporting cast. And once LeBron's off the books, you're going to have a lot of cap to play with. And so they're just going to need to find that new generation of an Eric Gordon, a PJ Tucker, a Jeff Green, a Clint Capella. You get my point. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what this front office, what JJ Redick, and what Luka Doncic can bring into town, recruitment wise to help build a foundation with Luka taking over the reins.
I agree. And, they basically get him, quote unquote, on the cheap because he's not eligible for the Supermax anymore since he
Yeah.
got traded. So they don't have to worry about he's going to get his money from LA if he likes it there. It's just going to come a couple years down the road. He's going to probably sign a short-term extension for now and wait for the big money to kick in a few years, and then he'll get his. And I think LA, if they're successful with this, would be fine.
Yeah.
One big thing through all this, however, it is health again. It really comes down to health. I firmly believe that the Mavericks did not want to pay him the supermax for a guy who you get 60 games out of every year. Let's see in a couple of years if this trend continues for Luka and he can't stay healthy and they're not anywhere further along in contending. If he wants his money, if they're really going to pay that kind of money for a guy who doesn't play, who misses 25 games a year, it's a definite concern.
It really is. But I think when you look at the future of the Lakers, to kind of wrap things up here, it's a brighter day today and than it was yesterday. Much brighter, in fact. And LeBron and AD were an aging championship duo that was dying out in the Western Conference. Landing Luka immediately provides them life and a much more optimistic approach for the future of the franchise. Now, World B, let's go ahead and shift gears here and look at this trade from the Dallas perspective. I mean, just from Jump Street, that what is immediately clear to me on this is the fact that it's win now or go home. And going home might be Nico Harrison on his couch without a job in 2 years, should this Mavericks team not make another finals appearance. Would you agree?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I think they went and let's win now, let's compete now. I think the success they had last season, they proved just about everybody wrong by making it to the finals. But you also had a superstar performance to get you to the finals in Luka. So you don't have that anymore. Can AD be that guy? He can definitely lead a team, I think, that far. And he's got Kyrie. If Kyrie's healthy, we've seen his postseason success. There are pieces there to contend, I think. Obviously, health is a big deal. Age is a bigger deal. These guys are not getting any older. And then you throw in Klay Thompson, who's basically one-dimensional at this stage of his career. You're paying him $30 million a year to be a one-dimensional thing, a three-point shooter, three-point specialist. For me, that's a really, if that doesn't work out, that's a notch on your resume that they can turn back and point to if they show you the door. That one, 3 years for a guy who is, we talked about it over and over. I've mentioned on this show, he's basically become a one-trick pony, and that's just stand around and shoot. It's almost exclusively now from three-point range. I don't see. They just got real old real fast with this trade. They could make roads in contention. They could do it, but you look at the future, and they better have a plan going forward when they have to blow this up. Whether they win or not, they're gonna. In 2 years, they have to do something here because all these guys will be 2 years older, and they're not gonna be 2 years better.
No, they definitely won't. And the thing that really stood out to me from the press conference that the Mavericks held is Nico Harrison kind of stood behind the quote, defense wins championships, which I don't disagree with. However, you just gave Klay Thompson 3 years money. He's a one-dimensional player. So I understand you needed shooting, but did you need it that much? And that was the guy to get? I mean, I think there's better, cheaper options that also play a little bit of defense that you could have probably acquired that wouldn't have, killed your cap as much as Klay is right now. But I will say the one thing I do like about this trade, and then I'll let you chime in here.
Mm-hmm.
Max Christie was a heck of a pickup. I know people are killing them for you should have got Dalton Connect or you should have got this guy. I've been a huge fan of Max Christie. I think he took a big step forward this year. I think he's a guy that's going to have an impact right away for this Mavericks group. They're going to need floor spacers out there, someone who can definitely step up if Klay's struggling. Quentin Grimes, kind of with his new, his fresh start in Dallas, has played a tremendous role for this team this year. So they've got some other perimeter pieces that I think can help. And Christie coming over as well is going to be bigger than people are even focusing in on right now as far as just, we're looking at the two stars being swapped. But I like Christie, and I think he's going to help Dallas right away.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a contributor to them. I don't see he's going to be a contributor right now. He'll get in the line if he shoots the way he was shooting. with the Lakers. The Lakers world got a whole lot better when Max Christie became a starter a few weeks ago.
Yep.
They got a whole lot better when he got in the starting lineup. And now it looks like maybe he was in the lineup as a trade, the showcase. He's on a friendly contract, which they signed. So he's got that going for him. The Mavs have that going for him, I should say. He'll get time no matter what if he shoots well, because A, you need that, and B, it's hard to find time if you have Clay and Spencer Dinwiddie to deal with at the 2-guard spot. Going forward, though, as you mentioned, they have a future at that 2-guard spot with Max Christie now. So they do have that future piece in place, but that's hardly a something you're building your franchise around. But yeah, I think that was a good pickup for them. Yeah, could you have gotten Dalton Connect could have demanded and seen if you could have, maybe they did and it just didn't work out or something. I don't know, how all the demands were, but yeah, he was a good pickup. He's going to get time right now. His future is down the road in a year or two. But I think he can be a big piece if they're trying to contend right now.
Yeah, totally. And so kind of taking the big picture perspective and wrapping this one up on the Dallas Mavericks, the way I look at it, the pressure is on right now. I mean, if you ask 10 out of 10 general managers, every one of them, I think, if they were in the Lakers' shoes, would have made that deal. So even if some weird case Luka doesn't work out in LA, no one's gonna second guess the fact that they pulled the trigger on this trade. It's actually obviously all on Dallas, and it's prove it or lose it as far as I'm concerned with this. This is an uphill battle trying to convince the fans and the rest of the league that this was a smart decision. Moving off of Luka Doncic. So I like the Kyrie AD pairing. I think it's going to work out very nice. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think they complement each other extremely well, which should be a lot of fun moving on the rest of this season. But boy, the pressure in Dallas right now is at an all-time high.
It is. But let's throw this in too. They were playing really well for a good long stretch with and without Luka in the lineup. So they had to really go on. They were really getting better defensively. So they do have that going for them. And you add AD to this mix. They have pieces to be a success this season, the rest of the season. Once you get comfortable with each other, once you start to blend in as the playoffs get closer. So they have a chance this season. I know the West is a rough and tough conference. I get that. But as we mentioned before, outside of OKC, which seems to be widely separated themselves from the rest of the field in the West, what other teams out there that you think are just they're dominant? They're going to be the only contenders to the Thunder. I think it's a little more open than people want to think. And I know that the West gets the reputation as the best conference, and they have obviously a lot of great teams. I just think there is an avenue for a lot of teams to contend in the West, and I think the Mavericks are one of them. I just think the Lakers now have a better chance than the Mavericks.
And certainly, last but not least, here will be, don't want to age you on this question, but I feel like you got more of a historical past than I do with the NBA game. I started watching the NBA religiously in the mid '90s. So I got to ask you if you can find a better trade. Like, is this the biggest trade in NBA history, or is there anything else that comes to mind?
I'm not going to say I've looked at some of the biggest deals that were made, involving the biggest names. I'll say this: I don't think it is the biggest trade in terms of how it impacts the league or anything like that. I think there are bigger trades. Wilt getting traded, as I mentioned at the top, Kareem getting traded. These guys change the league. Wilt literally change the league. So those are bigger deals and honestly bigger names. If you look at it though, two superstars getting traded in season, that I don't know if we've had that. And as I mentioned before, it may be, you could make the case, it's the most shocking trade of all time because none of us knew what was going to happen when Saturday began. Nobody had an inkling this was going to happen. outside of Dallas and LA in the front offices. So
Yep.
from that perspective, it's a shocker. Is it the biggest trade? I don't know yet. You're at the end of the day, I could poo-poo it. You're still talking about two oft-injured individuals who I don't know what their future is just because they can't stay healthy. I could play the devil's advocate that way. But in terms of star value going from one place to another, yeah, you can make the case that they is up there with the all-time best. You look at some of the great trades, and you go and look. The ones that go Charles Barkley to the Suns, there were some names that came back to Philly, but they weren't superstars.
No.
You know, Kareem goes from Milwaukee to the Lakers, a mega deal of the highest order. They didn't get a whole lot back to Milwaukee in terms of superstar value. So this one has that. I'll give it that. We'll wait and see if it's the biggest trade of all time.
Yeah. And I got bad news for you, World B. I know you're not a huge fan of the NBA trade machine, but boy, does this give those guys an argument. I mean, some of the trades we've seen in the past, it's like, the Knicks getting Giannis in a trade right now, and people be like, that would never happen, right? Like this Luka deal kind of opens up that avenue for them to be like, hey, it does happen. Look at Luka just got traded. No one thought that could happen. If we saw that in the trade machine 3 days ago, we would have said, okay, like pipe dream Lakers fan here, just trying to make some magic here. So I got news for you. Those trade machine gurus out there might have a leg up on us for the time being.
That's all right. That's good for the league. That's good for the attention. That's what you want. You want the popularity to go do something like this. No, that's no problem at all. It's and one of the good things that makes this trade, as we mentioned, such a big deal other than the participants, is that it was such a shocker. Yeah. We didn't know anything was going to happen, and then boom, it just happened. Over the summer, the Knicks pick up Mikal Bridges. This is not in that category, obviously, but nobody saw it coming until it actually happened. Then that's the fun part about it. We've heard about Jimmy Butler for weeks now, and now we're just waiting for it. Just go somewhere at this point. Just get out of here. Just get it over with already. This one is a stunner, but that's good for the league.
Yeah, the Jimmy Butler trade at this point is going to be boring compared to the two trades we're talking about tonight, and we haven't even talked about the other one yet.
Totally agree.
So just want to put you on record here. I know you were a fan of the Kyrie to Dallas trade when many others were not. I'm a huge fan. I think the Lakers won this trade, but I got to get it from you. Who won the trade?
Oh, I think the Lakers absolutely won this trade.
Okay, just wanted to be sure.
No question about it. I would. The Mavericks are actually, the Mavericks are probably close second to the Jazz. The Jazz are bit pieces in this, but they didn't lose anything, and they just picked up some pieces and stockpile their picks and get to see if Jalen Hood-Schifino can play the rest of the season.
Yeah, they get a free look period on a former first-round pick and helped assisted another trade, got some more draft capital with those second-round picks.
Yeah,
so,
they need that.
Way to go, Utah, in that deal, who they also made another trade this past weekend, but don't really need to dive into that. We got bigger fish to fry tonight. And I teased at the top, World B, that we had a domino effect in the NBA. Of course, this shocking trade just kind of was the first domino to fall, and now everything's coming crashing down with chaos with the trades around the league. And just a couple hours ago here on Sunday night, De'Aaron Fox got his wish and will be teaming up with Victor Wembanyama in San Antonio. We had a 3-team deal take place, and here are the details. The San Antonio Spurs get De'Aaron Fox. They're now cornerstone point guard to team up and pair with Victor. And Jordan McLaughlin also comes over in that trade from Sacramento. The Kings get Zach LaVine from the Chicago Bulls, Sidney Cisco from the San Antonio Spurs, a former prospect I was very high on. So hoping he can maybe carve out a few garbage minutes so we can get a look at him. And the Kings also got 3 future first-round picks. They get Charlotte's 2025 pick, which is important, the 2027 San Antonio pick, and a 2031 pick from the Minnesota Timberwolves. And they also got 3 second-round picks, a 2025 from Chicago, a 2028 from Denver, and a 2028 from, I guess, their own pick in 2028. They get it back in Sacramento. And then finally, we've got the Bulls here. And please don't start laughing on camera. I would hate that for Chicago fans. They get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their very own 2025 first-round pick back. So it's been a wild night for the Chicago Bulls, who finally traded Zach LaVine after all these months of talking about it. And I don't know what they have to show for it. But let's start at the top here with the most important part. What's this mean for the Spurs?
It gives them a nice setup to contend in the future with Wemby and De'Aaron Fox. Right now, it's looking much better. It's looking a whole lot better than it did before the weekend came along. You have a generational talent in Wemby, and you have one of the premier guards in the league who's under 30 in De'Aaron Fox. I think this is a perfect setup for them. Chris Paul is going to, I can see Paul and Fox in the backcourt together, a little small, but let's see how it works. And suddenly with Castle there, they have pieces now to really, if not contend with this lineup, make some trades and further add some further, or future pieces, whatever you want to call it. And I think this puts them in really good position to be a factor down the road, beginning next season.
Yeah, let's give a round of applause to the Spurs front office, because the fact that they were able to acquire De'Aaron Fox without giving up Stephon Castle, Jeremy Sohan, or some other young players that they have on that roster is just truly incredible. Masterclass from them. I don't know what the rush was from the Sacramento Kings to get that trade done today, but boy, I would have stand firm on either getting Castle or even maybe Sohan back in that deal to kind of solidify getting a young, definite, proven player back in that trade for their superstar point guard and De'Aaron Fox. But my question to you, you said contend for years, leading into the future. Can they contend now, potentially?
They could. I don't foresee it happening just yet. They haven't really. Now, this is before the trade, obviously.
Sure.
They've been kind of shaky of late. They're just inconsistent of late. They are one of the top 10 teams in the first half of games lately. They're one of the top 10 defenses in the first half, and they're the worst defense in the second half. So I don't know what that, why that is, but I don't think they're consistent enough to really contend. And when I say contend, win a series, get to the conference semifinals. That'd be a really good situation for the Spurs, given where they have been of late. But I can certainly see beginning next season them being in the upper level of the Western Conference.
Yeah, you talk about that defense falling off for the Spurs in the second half. I think it kind of comes down to the fact that Wemby, being as young as he is, how physical the league is, he's still adjusting to that. I think he's got to kind of focus his attention and energy offensively to help this team score the basketball in the second half, and that's kind of where he's putting his efforts more so in the second. And maybe the defense is a little bit, he's relaxing a little bit more in the second half there, whether it be foul trouble, whether it be just getting tired. I think he's trying to exert that energy offensively to keep this young Spurs team in ball games. But guess who's going to help that out right away? De'Aaron Fox, who's going to help out with the scoring load. So I'm really curious to see how that might impact their defense just from Wemby in second halves. Maybe, he can anchor the defense a little bit more in the paint, be a bigger presence around the rim, take some more chances on shot block opportunities in that second half if he's able to stay out of foul trouble. Another question I have for you is Chris Paul. Are we sure he sticks around post-deadline? Because to me, if I'm the San Antonio Spurs and there's other teams out there that might be interested in him, I'm definitely listening to see what else I might be able to get for the future for Chris Paul, since, he doesn't need to be a starter now. You got De'Aaron Fox there. You said they could play together. Definitely would be on the smaller side. Yeah. I would like to trade Chris Paul if I was a Spurs fan.
I don't think that's out of line at all to think like that. I think that puts them makes Chris Paul a very tradable piece who can play he can be put in any contending team, I think, that is in need of a point guard. Absolutely. I don't think there's any question about that. I just threw out the possibility of them playing together, not necessarily 40 minutes on the court together, but it could happen. You could see different things like that. It gives them more pieces. And I like your point about the scoring. It takes a lot of scoring load off of Wemby to have De'Aaron Fox, who is a 30-point potential per game guy. Certainly 25 points a game is not out of line to expect from De'Aaron Fox. So yeah, there a lot more scoring. I want to say a lot more clutch play down the stretch. We just haven't gotten that in recent years from De'Aaron Fox. He a couple of years ago he was fourth quarter Fox, and now he's got to work to get that back, I'd say. But it is there. It is a possibility. He does show that on occasion to be able to come through in the clutch. They're in a really good position right now. The Spurs, a lot better position than when the weekend began.
Definitely are. Now let's turn our attention to the Beam team here. What's this mean for the Sacramento Kings?
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out from the other two ends. They go and reunite Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. It worked out so well in Chicago.
So well.
I mean, so let's do that and team him up with Sabonis, who was having a ridiculously good season and was having a great run after the coaching change. And an all-star snub. He was the biggest all-star snub in my opinion, out there.
It's not close. Yeah,
I totally agree. I don't know what more the guy has to do to get on an all-star team. And his play after the coaching change has been unbelievably terrific. And so let's just break it up and add in a guy. I like Zach LaVine. I'm somebody who I wasn't a big fan at the start of his career. I've grown to like him a lot more than our colleague Bruce Bernstein doesn't take to him as much as I do. I happen to like his game. I think he does a really good job. He's improved so much as a shooter over the years, and he's having a great season from that perspective. I mean, if they wanted, they had the potential to get up and down, and that is another piece now. Now maybe DeRozan, LaVine, and Sabonis together, maybe that works. I saw that combo work, the DeRozan LaVine combo work before in Chicago. I don't know why we want to keep doing it in Kansas City. Maybe there's something going on in the future. I don't know.
Well, it's no secret on this show, World B. I've got a soft spot for the Sacramento Kings and kind of got an optimistic approach for you on this deal for them. I'm really looking forward to the point center Sabonis being even more important for this group moving forward. You talked about just the tremendous season he's having. I think he's only going to get better from this trade because he is going to be the sole focus on creating shots for others, whether it's screening, passing, screening, all the things that he does, bringing up the ball on his own rebounds and kind of pushing the pace, getting it up in front and to those wings running the floor. And Malik Monk, I think he's had a tremendous year so far especially under Doug Christie. He's kind of picked it up a little bit.
A little bit. He had nowhere to go but up. Let's put it that way. He had nowhere to go but up. He was having a terrible shooting season.
Yeah, but I think this provides him some clarity, right? I think
yes.
He's got to step up to the challenge now, and hopefully he's a guy with his confidence and ego. He's ready for it. I mean, I have no doubts that he's not going to shy away from the moment.
No, and I will say this in defense of the Kings or whatever, Zach LaVine this season, the Bulls, unbelievably just completely transformed their style of play this offseason. They up tempo much more. Their possessions per 48 minutes average was just 180. They absolutely just pushed the ball up and down the court much more. Now, if you want to do that with Sabonis, and now you have Zach LaVine coming from a system that was way up tempo, that could absolutely work. That could be a seamless transition. And Malik Monk is more than capable of doing that. So, yeah, I can see from that angle, I can see if they want to go that way, this having a positive impact on the Kings. And maybe, I'll be proven wrong once again.
Yeah, and the Kings, they kind of went the opposite direction of what Nico Harrison and Dallas is trying to do with defense wins championships. I mean, they're kind of back to trying to outscore people, adding a Zach LaVine into the mix. I know the defense did get better under Doug Christie. They've got some guys off that bench that certainly assist with defense. Devin Carter, a rookie that I'm very high on. He was injured to start the year, just started playing the last 10 to 15 games. Tremendously good rebounder. He's got to have an impact off that bench now as the backup point guard. Keon Ellis is still going to be huge for this team defensively in stretches. And I don't know. It brings a new level of intrigue from me as far as Sacramento is concerned, because as much as the fans are definitely going to miss De'Aaron Fox there and what he's brought to that organization over the course of his career, I think Zach LaVine's going to provide some electricity right away to this group with his athleticism, his ability to shoot the ball, score the ball, and just really looking forward to seeing what Point Sabonis can do. And I just expect those assist numbers to continue to increase with this trade.
And he's absolutely, and I totally can see that point. And by the way, Zach LaVine is going from a really negative situation in Chicago, where it's just centered around negativity. Not that Sacramento has been the gold standard for franchises this
Not
season
at all.
with the way they handled the coaching change, but things have gotten a lot quieter since the change, when they started being much more successful. And now you gotta believe that Zach LaVine getting out of Chicago will only energize him and help that franchise. So I'm, from that standpoint, I can see that being a positive for the Kings. You just wonder, could the Kings have gotten more for De'Aaron Fox? I don't know if they could have or not. It didn't sound like there was, it wasn't like Jimmy Butler where they're shopping around everybody. You didn't hear all these rumors about him going to this place, going to that place. You heard some rumors, but nothing strong. And this kind of came out of the blue on Sunday as well.
Yeah, and I go back to my question: what was the rush for the Kings front office to make that move tonight? They still had a couple of days. I know it was just about a week and a half ago they officially went to the media and said, "Hey, we're fielding calls on De'Aaron Fox. We're looking to trade him." Not sure, obviously, if they've got a good feel for his market and what was being offered out there, but still strange to have that trade fall today, that they just quickly made that decision to move off Fox for what they got in return without demanding more or seeking more elsewhere from some of the other conversations they were potentially having. Now, last, we got to talk about the third team in this one. That is the Chicago Bulls. I'll start with you, World B. I'll give you the floor. What's this mean for the Bulls moving forward?
Well, that's a very good question.
It's a loaded question.
I'm sure we are not the first show to bring this up. Or that's not the first time this question has been raised in regards to the Bulls. I mean, obviously, we've been hearing and talking about how they need to just gut this team, rebuild, get rid of guys, and now they're starting. It's really Vucevic is probably
he's got to be next. He's got to be.
You figure it's got to be next. He's shooting. He had such value for most of the season, while he was having the best shooting season of any big man in the league. I mean, it was just lights out. He was the number one 3-point shooter for a while. He was having a great season. Now he's tailed off. So now it's, you could have traded him at his peak, and now you've missed the boat or whatever. But you figure in the next few days he's got to go next, even if they have to take some of that salary, break that work or whatever. Because what is the motivation to keep him around? You're clearly going for the future, and what that future is, I don't know. I guess we should celebrate the fact that they got their first round pick back for next summer, or this summer, I should say. So I guess they got that going for them.
Yeah, and given the strength in this year's draft, highlighted by Cooper Flagg of Duke, I mean, they should be absolutely tanking the rest of this year. I mean, I'm dead serious, World B. Maybe this is a little exaggerated. From this day forward, they should not win more than 5 games the rest of the season to make sure they're in that sweepstakes, because let me tell you something. Of the trades they've made in the recent past, they've traded DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Alex Caruso And this is what they've gotten in return. This is the complete total package they've gotten for those 3 players. Josh Giddey, Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Chris Duarte, 2 second-round picks, and rights to their own 2025 picks. So the only way you can kind of make up for those past mistakes is to really go in the tank right now. And if you walk away with Cooper Flagg come this year's draft, it looks a little better, but boy, has it been brutal as far as just that highlight of what they've gotten in return for those 3 players.
If they could somehow get the pick that they reacquired, their own pick that they reacquired, could somehow turn into Cooper Flagg, then guess what? This all worked out, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's all worth it. All the headaches, all the criticism, all the jokes, whatever you want. If they can figure out a way, if it somehow works out, the ping pong ball bounces their way, yes, then they get the credit for it, and hats off to them. But the biggest thing out of this, when you go all these lengths and you get your pick back that you let go when you trade, you traded to get DeMar DeRozan, that tells you all you need to know about where you stand as a franchise. And we were talking before I went on. It reminds me so much of in baseball. I'm a Mets fan, and it reminds me of back their first season, the '62 Mets. The Mets made a trade with Cleveland in which they acquired a player named Harry Cheedy, and in return, they sent a player to be named later. Harry Cheedy was so bad for the Mets that they sent him back to Cleveland as their player to be named later. He literally got traded for himself. That's what they brought up this. So if nothing else, the Bulls were able to remind me of that, so they get credit for that. Outside of it, I don't know what's going on there in Chicago.
I'm glad you squeezed that in because, of course, everyone's doing emergency podcasts on these 2 trades. And I tell you what, you're not going to get that fun fact anywhere else other than 48 minutes. So
you're not going to get anybody this old talking about it, that's for sure.
Yeah. So with that will do it for tonight's special edition of the 48 Minutes podcast by Believe, presented by Bet Online. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with you tomorrow night with special guest Peter Vesey. Really looking forward to picking his brain, especially after this epic weekend of wheeling and dealing around the association. But World B, this has been fun. I'll see you tomorrow night. And for all of our listeners out there, take care. All right.
That was good.